folks in Hoosick Falls get their hands dirty.
Taking a break from the water issues plaguing their village, volunteers set out to make a difference today and give kids something to smile about. It's a story you'll see only on CBS 6. Then on April 5th, just under 2 months after testing began, we asked again, and the DOH couldn't give us a specific date, but said it should be soon. A week later, now 2 months after testing began, a spokesperson told us it would take anywhere from 2 to 3 months from when they took those samples. Fast forward to just last week, exactly 3 months later, we asked again, and the DOH again said the results hadn't been sent out.
District Attorney's Office.
Breaking news right now, the Albany Police Chief answering questions about that deadly nightclub shooting.
We're going to let you listen in.
Our special team coverage of Election Day 2016 starts right now. Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us on Election Night. I'm Cody Holyoke.
And I'm Ann McCloy. Millions of people are still out voting right now in the most watched election in a really long time.
No, there are many more local races in our area, and we have our entire team covering it live tonight. Tori Wells, Emily DeFisciani covering a heated race for New York's 19th congressional district.
Heather Kovar is out covering the state Senate seat left empty by Hugh Farley. First, though, we head out live to Hubert Wiggins in Rotterdam, where officials are expecting a huge voter turnout tonight. Hubert, I hear the line's been busy all day. Breaking news out of Rensselaer County right now. A Troy man convicted of killing his ex-girlfriend and her unborn daughter is set to spend the next 50 years in prison.
Breaking this morning, all lanes are now back open on 787 following a really serious crash in Albany.
A person hit by a car last night right near exit 2. I want to show you a map of the area we're talking about, right by the historic Cherry Hill House.
CBS 6's Carrie Beal is joining us there where the crash happened.
Jeff Reddick's in the newsroom for us tonight. Jeff, set the scene for us. What is this video and how does it factor into the trial?
Sure, guys. Well, the trial continued on Wednesday, but the video we're going to show you is actually from Friday.
I could see the smoke for miles, and I said, oh boy.
Because right now, probably half the city is out of power.
My house isn't even on fire anymore. My house is on the ground.
I know we'll overcome this. This is what we do in Cohoes. You may be able to knock us down, but we're not staying down. We're going to get up.
And to some of the sights and sounds from what has been a devastating afternoon and evening here in Cohoes. Thank you for joining us here on Spectrum News. Live at 7, I am Solomon Syed coming to you from Remsen Street in Cohoes, where you see behind me the embers still burning from this fire that touched off a little after 2 o'clock.
And as you just heard from meteorologist Mike Bono, it's been a big snow day for the capital region. And we have team coverage as the snow continues to fall. And we're going to start off with Jackson Wang, Matt Hunter, Camille DeLucas, and our Evan Seri, who have all been standing by.
Solomon and Camille, these students are ready to hit the dance floor. I'm ready to hit the dance floor. We're going to check back in with you again once more before the end of the program here. Listen to this crowd. Hundreds of people in attendance, 900 or so students right here. Who's ready to dance? We're going to dance all night. And their efforts are supporting several of their neighbors that they're raising money for. Last year, $800,000. Will they eclipse that this year? We'll find out, but for now, Solid Camille, send it back to you.
Arena football is back in Albany.
The Albany Empire kicking off their season tonight before a sold-out crowd at the Times Union Center.
Our sports director, Marissa Jacks, is inside the TU Center, and Mercedes Williams has been at the festivities outside.
Marissa, we will start with you. This is really an exciting night for the Capital Region.
Yeah, absolutely, Terry and Camille. You guys said it. It's sold out, and definitely a very good thing for Capital Region football fans. Should be an exciting night.
We're taking an in-depth look tonight into concerns brought to us by retirees from the Albany Police Department. They're voicing concerns for their health and the health of current officers working at the department's South Station. That is where we find our Terry Stackhouse right now. And Terry, you heard from these retirees today, and you took their concerns to officials. What did those officials say?
Well, Solomon, their main concern here is poor air quality. We spoke to members of the Albany Police Department Retirees Union, and they say that they are concerned about the conditions inside of the Albany Police Department South Station. They say they know of 53 people who have worked here who either have cancer, have had cancer, or have died from cancer. And now they're calling on the city to take action.
A chaotic morning on the Hudson River as several boats and barges come loose and float freely. Multiple bridges were closed during the morning commute, but they have all been reopened. We do have team coverage this afternoon. Jackson Wang and Jacqueline Kangro are standing by. We're going to go first to the Port of Albany, where Jacqueline is standing by. And Jacqueline, you just got an update from officials there.
Jody, the DEC says that they have never seen anything like this before. In all, 8 unmanned vessels got loose, and you can see the rusty anchor right here behind me. They do say, though, that this situation is stable.
Right behind me, the Captain JP cruise line is still here, and it's been stabilized and tied up to this bridge right behind me. Now, we want to show you some video from this morning. The vessel hitting the Livingston Avenue Railroad Bridge at around 9 o'clock this morning, and it's been stuck here since.
Keith Raniere is facing a number of charges, including sex trafficking and forced labor. Jacqueline Kangro has been following this case for us. She is outside federal court in Brooklyn, where today's trial will take place. Good morning, Jacqueline.
Good morning, Dan. Keith Raniere's trial set to begin today, almost 150 miles from NXIVM's headquarters in Colony.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Chapman, live in the city of Troy on 5th Avenue. A devastating day as the Alpha bowling lanes goes up in flames. We're going to show you live right now the pictures behind me here. Firefighters have been on the scene since around 9:30 this morning, and the Alpha bowling alley destroyed. Now, this building has been here from the 1930s.
Okay, we are continuing to follow that breaking news coming out of Schoharie County Court this afternoon, where Nauman Hussein, the operator of the limousine company involved in last October's deadly crash in Schoharie, pleaded not guilty.
Good evening, Saul. A law firm has been looking into serve Shahed Hussein, the owner of Prestige Limousine, with a lawsuit on behalf of one of the victims' family. But they've been unsuccessful because they can't pinpoint exactly where he is.
The National Transportation Safety Board releasing its preliminary report. Jackson Wang standing by for us in our newsroom with details on the crash that killed 20 people. And Jackson, this is not a complete report, but there are some things in here that we did not know before. Well, for the very first time, we are hearing from the attorneys of Prestige Limousine in newly filed court documents. The company claiming the 20 lives lost in last October's devastating crash was not caused by negligence on behalf of the owner or operator, but instead flipping the blame on the victims.
Hard to describe the heartbreak of Amanda Hulse's family over these past 4 months. Her life was cut short along with 19 others in that tragic Schoharie limo crash. But tonight, their smiles lit up the room as they talked about the girl they called Mandy, and they were so proud to show off the one thing she loved the most, her artwork.
This is her and Patrick. It's a cartoon she did.
Doodles on a page are forever frozen in time.
I have a piece of her with me forever.
This is the first time we're hearing from some of these families since that limo crash back in October. And as you can imagine today, their words to lawmakers were very heartfelt, emotional, and powerful.
This should have never happened. It should have never been allowed to happen.
The grief and pain of a mother's loss poured out on the Senate hearing floor Thursday morning. DOT was also there. They testified in front of the lawmakers, but they couldn't exactly say much because of that ongoing criminal investigation against the operator of Prestige Limousine, Nauman Hussein. And Saul, as compelling as that testimony was today, only 3 lawmakers showed up. I spoke with Senator Tedisco and asked exactly why so few were there. He said he didn't know.
Movement towards making limousines safer 8 months after the deadly crash in Schoharie. The state Senate unanimously passing a package of 9 bills Thursday requiring drivers to get commercial licenses and mandating random drug and alcohol testing for drivers.
This weekend will mark 1 year since 20 people died in the limousine crash in Schoharie, but there are still plenty of unanswered questions about what happened. Jacqueline Kangro is live in Schoharie with a look at the status of these cases. Good morning, Jacqueline.
Good morning, Dan. And a lot has happened in the past year. A criminal case continues here in Schoharie, and investigators say they're still looking for answers.
There's no escaping the loss.
I don't know how we would have survived this without the love and support of our community.
It doesn't go away, it just gets a little bit easier every day.
We're like a pull them up on the bootstraps kind of community, and we, just get it done.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us here on Spectrum News. I'm Terry Stackhouse. Sunday marks 1 year from when 20 lives were taken too soon on a Saturday in Schoharie. Tonight we are honoring the victims and everyone affected by this tragedy. My co-anchor Camille DeLongis is in Amsterdam, a city where many of the lives lost were from.
Within a year's time, a memorial has been built at the site of that crash. Donations pouring in over the last year to make it all possible. Melissa Steininger is standing by this evening at the Apple Barrel store, where that monument, that finished product, will be unveiled tomorrow morning. Good evening to you, Melissa.
Good evening, Camille. Well, there was a lot for the Reflections Memorial Foundation to accomplish in just a year's time, but it was actually the kindness of the community that made that all possible. Of course, the unveiling for the families is here tomorrow, but over the past few weeks, we got a glimpse into that permanent memorial, a tribute to all 20 lives. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. A difficult morning here in Schoharie as we're outside the Apple Barrel, where the families of the 20 loved ones lost last year in the limo crash are now gathering.
In just a few minutes, there will be a ceremony here to honor them, to honor the first responders, in a place where their loved ones, their families can come and forever reflect.
And they can grieve, but they can also smile and remember and think about the good times. And I think that's what a lot of these families are doing right now, and that's the reason a lot of them are here. The Amsterdam Stronger ceremony is about to begin, so let's go and listen in. We did have the opportunity to come up here to Amsterdam earlier this week because, as we said, this tragedy really impacted the entire community.
Everybody in our community knew somebody. The people are not going to forget, and that's what Amsterdam's about.
It is Wednesday, December 23rd. Welcome to Capitol Tonight. I'm Susan Arbetter. Governor Cuomo continues to urge the federal government to address the new COVID-19 strain in the UK. Cuomo says travelers from the UK should be tested before arriving in the United States. He says their response is similar to how the pandemic was handled in the spring. Both the political left and right are calling for investigations and even impeachment as more facts come to light regarding the Cuomo administration's misrepresentation of nursing home data. Last night, the New York Post broke the news that the governor's top aide told lawmakers during a meeting on Wednesday that data on nursing home deaths that they had sought back in August was delayed because days later, the U.S. Department of Justice had requested information on the administration's handling of the pandemic. Secretary to the governor, Melissa DeRosa, told lawmakers, quote, "We froze." Well, why did the Cuomo administration freeze? First up tonight, our Nick Reisman has the nuts and bolts of this story, as well as a timeline that will help all of us understand what happened. Nick.
Susan, over the last 6 months, the controversy surrounding how the deaths of nursing home and long-term care facility residents have been reported in New York has been building. And now that meeting between state lawmakers and a top aide to Governor Andrew Cuomo is leading to calls for change. Governor Andrew Cuomo went on the defensive today, finally addressing the scandal that broke last week after the governor's top aide admitted the state delayed releasing the number of COVID-19 related nursing home deaths due to a federal probe. It was also just last week that the state finally released data detailing more than 15,000 nursing home residents have most likely died from the coronavirus. Here to break. And Ryan joins us now from Buffalo. Ryan, it is really worth noting here that we have not had a governor in all of our illustrious history in New York State actually leave office this way in a century, correct?
That's right. And worth noting, though, that in this past century, in the 2000s, about 14 or 15 years ago, we did have Governor Eliot Spitzer, who was embroiled in that prostitution ring, and he actually left office on his own, resigning before those impeachment articles were brought up, but lawmakers had indicated they were going to do that. And it's worth noting, if you want to compare that while he wasn't federally charged, there was at least things leading toward an investigation there, where we haven't seen that at all with Governor Cuomo at this point.
All right, Ryan Whalen, thank you very much this evening.
In a detailed essay, a former aide to Governor Andrew Cuomo is accusing him of sexual harassment, saying he forcibly kissed her in his New York City office, with a spokesperson for the governor saying those claims are, quote, quite simply false.
Susan, like you said, Charlotte Bennett is now the second former state aide to accuse Governor Andrew Cuomo of sexual harassment. But a lot of things happened just this past weekend, so let's break it down just really quickly. Right after these accusations came out, Governor Cuomo tried to appoint his own judge he had close ties with to investigate these allegations. State lawmakers and the state attorney general almost immediately shot this down.
Governor Andrew Cuomo is not going anywhere, repeating today he isn't going to resign. At least 15 Democratic members of New York's House delegation have called on the governor to resign today amid accusations from multiple women that he sexually harassed them. Another woman has stepped forward accusing Governor Andrew Cuomo of inappropriate behavior. The woman, Sherry Ville, is being represented by Gloria Allred, a high-profile women's rights attorney. They held a press conference today detailing the allegations.
Susan, this 168-page report from Attorney General Letitia James's office provides a raw accounting of the allegations of sexual harassment leveled against Governor Cuomo by nearly a dozen women. The report ultimately concludes Governor Cuomo broke the law.
Some of the 11 women whose accusations are detailed in the report and found to be corroborated are responding today to the development. Ryan Whalen is following some of those responses, including more calls for impeachment and accountability. Ryan, I understand that you just spoke with one of the complainants, Sherry Ville, and her attorney, Gloria Allred. What did they have to say?
Yeah, Susan, Sherry Ville was not one of those 11 women that the Attorney General report's findings found that the governor had quote, sexually harassing conduct with. However, she was interviewed and mentioned in the footnotes of this report. The governor visited her home in Greece in 2017 following flooding, and she says he made her uncomfortable by grabbing her face and kissing her on both cheeks, also telling her she was beautiful, sending a letter and signed photos addressed just to her, and a Cuomo staffer later inviting her to another event. She says, despite the governor saying that this is how he interacts with hundreds of people all the time, she has no doubt in her mind it was inappropriate behavior.
A female aide to Governor Andrew Cuomo was quoted aggressively groped by the governor, according to an alarming report released yesterday by the Albany Times-Union. This allegedly happened at the executive mansion in Albany and has now been reported to local authorities. Our reporter Morgan Mackay joins us now. So, Morgan, what can you tell us?
Susan, this groping allegation has been referred to the Albany Police Department, according to state officials. This allegation was reported to police by Cuomo's acting counsel, Beth Garvey, after the woman involved declined to make the report herself.
We've heard many calls for the governor to resign over these allegations, but we are also beginning to see growing support for impeachment. Nick Reisman is at the state capitol right now, where a lot of talk has been taking place among Assembly Democrats. Nick, what's going on?
Susan, we're going to be seeing this potential impeachment process play itself out over the next several weeks, and it's going to originate in the state assembly. So there's really three numbers that we're going to be looking at over these next several days. Number one is 150. That's the number of people who are actually in the state assembly, 150 state lawmakers there. 76, that's the number of votes that are required for an impeachment to be advanced to the state Senate. And then the last number here is 40. That's the only number that's really ever going to change on this dry erase board of ours, because that's the number of Democrats who currently support resignation for Governor Cuomo.
We
have breaking news right now out of Albany County, where the sheriff Craig Apple is set to discuss the first criminal complaint lodged against Governor Andrew Cuomo since the release of that Attorney General report back earlier this week.
The woman filing the complaint identified as one of the governor's executive assistants. That's happening right now. Let's toss over to that.
We're in contact, and I had since been removed from that. I cannot get into the nature of her specific allegations at this time.
Nick, what can you tell us more about this?
Well, at this point, it's really interesting to see just how Sheriff Apple is going to be approaching something like this. He is going to be working with Albany County District Attorney David Soares' office to kind of share resources moving forward. They're not ruling out talking with and interviewing Governor Andrew Cuomo as part of this investigation as well.
This is a Spectrum News special report. I'm Casey Bortnick. We are expecting a press conference from the attorney to Governor Cuomo, Rita Glavin. She's set to speak momentarily. We'll bring that to you live right here on Spectrum News when it happens. This will be the second time that the governor's attorneys have addressed the public since the release of the Attorney General's report substantiating claims the governor sexually harassed 11 women. Our Nick Reisman and Morgan Mackay will be joining me in just a moment for a little bit of a preview of what's going on here. Also, we can tell you this video that we're looking at, our cameras from our sister station, New York 1, were the only ones there to see Governor Cuomo arrive at the heliport in Manhattan this morning. Glavin offered an apology to the New York State trooper the governor is accused of having touched inappropriately in a CNN interview earlier today. Now, she is going to speak momentarily. We'll bring that to you live when it happens right here on Spectrum News. Again, you can see the governor there arriving in Manhattan a little bit earlier today, our sister station, New York 1, the only camera there to get this exclusive video of the governor arriving in Manhattan. More on that in just a moment. Let's bring in Nick Reisman as well as Morgan Mackay. They are watching this very closely. Nick,
his attorneys have already signaled at this
Nick,
point.
I'm going to have to interrupt you there. I apologize, but Rita Glavin is speaking live right now on Spectrum News 1. Let's take you there live.
Andrew Cuomo. On August 3rd, the Attorney General released a report about the governor.
Nick, I want to go back to you. We were together on a Zoom press conference at 3:30 last Friday. We're talking about what took so long for the governor and his team to make some sort of official response to the new allegations in the Attorney General's report. We have, again, a reset of that, another opportunity. This wasn't necessarily aimed at the media, this press conference today, not necessarily aimed at specific legislators, since many have already come out and basically have said they've made up their mind in the state assembly and the state senate as well. We hear many legislators making their opinions clear on this. This was kind of aimed at the public, the court of public opinion. Do you think this moved the needle at all?
That's right, and I do believe that Governor Cuomo is actually talking right now.
Let's
so
take you there live. Thank you, Nick.
First, I've always started by telling New Yorkers the facts before my opinion. And I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing. And therefore, that's what I'll do. It has been the honor of my lifetime. God bless you.
There you have it, saying he loves New York and loves the people in it. Governor Cuomo announcing he will resign from office effective in 14 days. Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul will take over then, becoming the first female governor in New York State history. It seemed like Governor Cuomo was on top of the world, a national political figure due to his response to COVID-19, maybe mentioned as replacing Joe Biden on the Democratic ticket in some circles. Today, he is going to be out of office in 2 weeks. Tell me a little bit about that fall and what you make of it.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Look, what we have here is somebody who excelled in certain areas of governance and political life and was woefully deficient in some other respects. And I'd like to bring up something that I know Nick knows a great deal about, Morgan as well, which is the way they ran that office. It was such a snake pit in so many ways. It was so toxic. There were people who would be screamed at, berated, cursed at on a routine basis. And the staff never really even denied it. They just kind of said, the senior staff, that, well, this is what it takes to get the kind of high performance during the pandemic and in other cases that the public likes so much. And this is not a place for everybody. Well, look, in the end, it was that level of hostility that led to people keeping their mouths closed. It led to people not telling the governor that he was offending people, that people considered themselves to be harassed, that they thought his actions were not just unwelcome but possibly unlawful. His circle got smaller and smaller, and it was just a handful of people at the end. And then even those people began to walk away from Andrew Cuomo. So
was that this was essentially 11 teachable moments, 11 misunderstandings. The governor's very contrite. This is sort of almost what we heard in the spring. But I think the governor is right. Listen, you can think the report is 100% true or 100% false. But the bottom line is the business of the state has stalled. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're in the middle of a crime surge in many parts of the state. And you can't have the chief executive or the legislature, for that matter, focusing on this when there's business at hand. And there is a process in place, as the governor noted. Kathy Hochul is there. This is why you have a lieutenant governor, so that the business of the state can return.
Former governor of New York, George Pataki, joining us live right here on Spectrum News 1. Governor Pataki, first of all, we're honored to have you. Give us your general reaction to this kind of jaw-dropping news today.
You know, it's a sad day for New York, but it had to happen. It was clear once the Attorney General's report came out that Governor Cuomo could not stay in office. 11 allegations that were found credible after a very detailed and fair investigation. And it just was inevitable that the legislature would have had to impeach Andrew Cuomo if he hadn't resigned. So,
Nick, Governor Andrew Cuomo's resignation rocked the state capitol today. Lawmakers were taken aback that New York's third-term governor will be stepping down in 14 days, but say there still needs to be accountability.
With less than 4 days before the end of Governor Andrew Cuomo's time in office, moving crews from the executive mansion arrived. This is exclusive video you will only see here on Capitol Tonight and Spectrum News 1. Workers from the State Office of General Services and a U-Haul truck arrived this morning as the governor prepared to leave office on Tuesday. You can see hand trucks and other moving equipment being brought in. Shortly after, the U-Haul truck was moved and backed up closer to the residence. Earlier this week, Cuomo had filed paperwork for retirement with the state for his pension. The think tank, the Empire Center, reports this could be worth as much as $50,000 a year. Governor Cuomo prepares to step down next week in the wake of a sexual harassment scandal. We are hearing exclusively from one of his accusers this evening. She says she's not happy that Cuomo has admitted he hasn't done anything wrong. Zach Fink joins us now from New York City. Zach, you spoke exclusively with Charlotte Bennett in this interview.
That's right, Nick. Charlotte Bennett was the second person to accuse Governor Cuomo of harassment, and many critics at the time said this was a very significant step in that case against the governor, because the first person to accuse him, Lindsey Boylan, the governor's people made an attempt to smear her, according to a report by the Attorney General, the scathing 165-page report on sexual harassment. But Bennett told us a little bit about her impressions over the last couple of weeks, and she's not very impressed with how Governor Cuomo chose to go out.
Well, for more on that, more of the politics and more of the criminal aspect around this, let's bring back in Nick Reisman. He was watching that news conference. Nick, give us your thoughts and anything surprising coming out of that press conference.
Well, Casey, there were a couple of key issues that were raised by Sheriff Apple in that news conference. One was the one that you mentioned, actually, which was that he was essentially sandbagged, as he put it, when this criminal complaint had been released, and he regrets that it was actually made public before his office was even aware that it had been.
The office of governor of the state of New York.
An historic day for the state of New York.
I want people to believe in their government again.
Kathy Hochul becomes the first woman to serve as governor.
So I think it'll be a different culture in general.
And I just think it's a wonderful opportunity.
What the new governor outlined for her agenda and how New Yorkers are reacting to new leadership in Albany.
I think it's about time. It's been about a century.
I think she's going to be a great governor for all of New York.
Complete coverage of Governor Kathy Hochul's first day as Capitol Tonight starts now. It is Tuesday, August 24th. Welcome to Capitol Tonight. I'm Susan Arbetter. It was Governor Kathy Hochul's first full day on the job, being sworn in just after midnight and then again during a ceremony early this morning.
Of the office of governor of the state of New York, to the best of my abilities, so help me God. So help me God.
Then this afternoon, Hochul addressed New Yorkers for the first time as Governor. Morgan Mackay was there. So, Morgan, give us a breakdown of what the governor said in her speech and what her top priorities are.
Susan, Governor Kathy Hochul says her top priority and focus is COVID-19. With the Delta variant sweeping through the state, the governor says she wants a universal mask mandate for anyone entering schools and for school staff to either be vaccinated or tested weekly for COVID-19.
Critics are asking why the state is spending hundreds of millions of dollars to subsidize a profitable NFL team with money that could have been used for other issues, for health care, for child care, things like that. How do you respond to those critics?
Well, we have $10 billion for health care, $32.8 billion for infrastructure, $31 billion for education, $7 billion for child care. So we have made significant investments in other areas. This did not detract at all from those investments because those are important to me. So this was a regional priority for Western New York. We know that. It's a point of pride for Western New Yorkers. Every 30 years, a new stadium has to be built. It was 100% publicly financed when it was done the first time. What we worked on in a very thoughtful approach was to negotiate a deal to keep them here for 30 more years. That was a commitment they were never willing to make. So New Yorkers don't have to worry about whether New York will have a team. They're going to stay.
You said that you were not upset at all yesterday with the lieutenant governor not telling you that he was under investigation. Aren't you even a little bit sore about that? I mean, if you're not, you're a better woman than I am.
I'm looking at what he has brought to our administration. His work has been extraordinary. He worked very hard behind the scenes, leveraging his friendships, his relationships to help us get a comprehensive approach to increasing public safety and security. He is very important to me in this administration. And as New Yorkers all over the state continue to get to know him, and the commentary from Buffalo to Syracuse to Rochester and places where he's had forums with local leaders and talking about gun safety and helping reduce the root causes of crime, his voice is very important to me, and he is going to stay with me on the ticket.
Okay. Brian Benjamin has resigned after being indicted in connection with a campaign finance scheme. Zach Fink was there when the indictment was unsealed and joins us now from New York City. Zach.
Susan, that's right. It was this morning that Benjamin was arrested by the FBI and a 5-count indictment was unsealed earlier today. We didn't hear much from Governor Hochul throughout the day or Brian Benjamin himself, but then shortly before 5 p.m. we received a statement from the governor which said, quote, "I have accepted Brian Benjamin's resignation effective immediately. While the legal process plays out, it is clear to both of us that he cannot continue to serve as lieutenant governor."
We are continuing coverage on this breaking news out of Buffalo, Jefferson Avenue, Tops Market, mass shooting. And we have just learned 13 people were shot, 10 people dead. And we're waiting to hear now from the mayor of Buffalo, from the police commissioner, from FBI, possibly the county sheriff, about this mass shooting. 13 people shot, 10 dead. Police do say the suspected gunman is in custody at this time. There's a perimeter around the area. They're asking people to stay away from this area still. And we should be hearing from officials in just about a minute. Our reporter there on the scene, Brienne, we just spoke with her about 15 minutes ago, and she explained that there's a lot of roads in that area shut down. It's unclear who the victims are, but we do know, again, 13 people at this point, 13 people shot, 10 people killed in this mass shooting. Witnesses, investigators saying that a single person went inside with a rifle and opened fire. And as you can see here, this is live, where we're expecting to hear from officials any moment now. Looks like they're entering the room right now. And we're going to be hearing from the mayor, the police commissioner, and the FBI at least. So let's listen in.
Again, this is a day of great sadness for all of us in the city of Buffalo.
We do want to bring in Victoria Halakar, who was at the scene. Victoria, you have a little better view than we do. What are you seeing out there?
Well, the president just arrived. He and First Lady got out of the car. They have a bouquet of flowers. They're hand in hand. They're approaching the largest of the memorials set up for the victims of Saturday's shooting. They're taking their time now. They're looking at the memorial, paying their respects here before they head off to the local community center to meet with the families of these victims. Just a tragic event in Buffalo's history, a tragic event in the nation's history, and the Bidens are here today to make sure that they make it clear to the country that actions like this are not okay, and we're going to try to do something in the future to prevent it. It looks like there are some other people coming up with additional bouquets to be placed at the memorial. Jill and Joe Biden are backing away to allow them to put those bouquets down. I believe one of them.
Yep.
One of
Chuck
them
Schumer,
is
Kirsten
Attorney
Gillibrand,
General
Kathy
Tish
Hochul.
James.
Yep.
And the mayor.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult for me to see from this far out, but yeah, a lot of local representatives. I know at least one of those was Tish James. We saw her a little bit earlier. Just an outpouring of support from any local and state and obviously national representatives here.
Victoria, we're going to back out for just a second here and just kind of take this in as many of Western New York's political leaders here pay their respects.
I'm here with Clarence Butch Sanford and Sunsiri Muhammad. Now, they were part of the crowd that was back behind the police line while the president was here. So tell me, seeing him here with our senators, mayors, local representatives, how did it make you feel?
It made me feel great that he actually came along with his beautiful wife Jill and his administrative staff. A lot of former presidents sometimes come for just formality. I believe he came from the spirit of his heart that he really wanted to be here. I really believe that he felt what we felt as far as the horrific situation that happened here about these people, innocent people losing their lives. He felt that. He felt that in Washington. And
Jill and I have come to stand with you. And to the families, we've come to grieve with you. It's not the same, but we know a little bit what it's like to lose a piece of your soul. When you lose a son, a daughter, a husband, a wife, a mother, a father. The feeling of having that, as I said to some of you when we talked privately, you feel like there's a black hole in your chest you're being sucked into. And
we've got full coverage of this two-day convention, which kicked off in Midtown Manhattan today. It is largely a ceremonial beginning to the election season ahead of the June 28th primaries, which are just 4 months away.
This convention has been Cuomo-fied for the last 11 years. He's really had sort of, his imprint has been all over this. So we're going to see something new this time.
Candidates, it is time now for the cross-examination round, and we begin with Andrew Giuliani.
Well, this is a question for Lee. I want to know, Lee, have you ever called President Trump's past statements racist?
I believe that President Trump was a great president. I don't know what comment you're referring to specifically in asking that question. I don't recall. But as far as President Trump goes, I think he was often misinterpreted. I believe that some people called statements that he made racist, and it's the way that the person who's defining racism, that's how they end up calling President Trump's comments racist. There was one time. You asked your question.
Have you ever?
You asked your question.
Let him answer.
Racist. You asked your question. And now what happens is I get to answer the question, Andrew. That's how this works. I know you feel like you're entitled to become governor of New York. It's a birthright for you. But what happens with these rules is that you can ask a question and then I'll answer it.
Our reporters are standing by across upstate New York right now at campaign watch parties for congressional candidates and primaries. We're going to be live with you all night as polls close, bringing you the latest results. We are now back with Nick Reisman, who is working with a new tool in our election arsenal. What is this, Nick?
Well, Susan, we're going to be keeping track of all of the results this evening in a handful of key congressional races across upstate New York. And really, we're going to be watching to see just where things ultimately land here. You know, it's probably a little too much to kind of read into where some of these races are going to go and what things mean for November. But let's take a look first at the 19th congressional district in the Hudson Valley. And this is actually a seat that is going to be changing quite dramatically post-redistricting once that is going to be taking effect. But right now, this is a congressional district and a special election that is going to be filling the seat vacated by Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado. It's a race between Republican Dutchess County Executive Mark Molinaro, Democratic Ulster County Executive Pat Ryan, and this is kind of really seen as a bellwether for where things could potentially be heading in November.
President Biden speaking live in the Hudson Valley at Poughkeepsie at the IBM plant there, announcing a $20 billion investment from IBM in semiconductor development, mainframe computer development, quantum computer development. That's Susan's favorite. 7,500 jobs supported in the Hudson Valley, 11,000 jobs created statewide.
To have them on the home front made here, that's the argument you're seeing from Biden and others, that it's useful to have them here. Add on top of that all of the issues we've seen with the supply chain as a result of the pandemic, sort of a wake-up call as to what's available in the U.S. versus what is not. One thing that was kind of interesting about his remarks on this particular point is that he did take less than a shaded hit at some of the Republicans that voted against this, noting that the China's leadership was against this bill because it could end up leading to more of these being made stateside as opposed to overseas in that region of the world. And he basically said, look, some of our friends decided, I guess, to side with the Chinese Communist Party.
And we said before we teased this would be touring the IBM facility. If we can roll a little bit of that right now, here is President Biden on the tour, getting a little bit of a view of this site. What we can tell you about this site is it's pretty advanced in the areas of research and development, semiconductor manufacturing, mainframe technology, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, which Susan gave me a long lesson on earlier.
Anything you want to know about quantum computing in 10 seconds, I can share with you.
Yeah, it was a very succinct lesson, and I still don't know if I understand it, even if I would have spent more than an hour with you going over it. But anyway, good paying manufacturing jobs is what we expect.
And President Biden, of course, is also trying to draw a contrast with Republicans. He's coming here to a pretty hotly contested congressional district in an area of the state that has really been kind of competitive, trading seats between both parties, Democrat and Republican, over the last several years.
President Biden getting off the plane. Just want to mention that. Nick Reisman will check back in with you in just a little bit. He's at OCC where the president set to speak at 3:30 this afternoon. We'll bring that to you live in its entirety right here on Spectrum News 1. You see President Biden and Republican Congressman John Katko getting off the plane. This is Congressman Katko's home district. Feels very at home there. He will be leaving Congress, though, not running for re-election.
Have to calm it down. I don't notice that Joe Biden has done any of that. You compare the rhetoric of Donald Trump to Joe Biden, it ain't close in terms of heatedness, in terms of divisiveness, in terms of pointing fingers at people.
Well, just respectfully, Joe Biden's not running for U.S. Senate in New York. Donald Trump is not running for U.S. Senate in New York. You are, sir, and you were the one that had that rhetoric. Do you feel as if that was responsible, and do you apologize to Justice Kavanaugh?
Mr. Schumer, did you want to respond?
Look, the bottom line is that I have never advocated violence in any way, never have, never do, never will. The words I used that day were probably the wrong choice of words, and I said that then and say it now.
Is Donald Trump a great president?
I worked closely with him on a
Yes
number
or no?
of important
Yes or no?
policies.
But he's allowed to have a minute, like you.
And I believe that from our work to combat MS-13 on Long Island, our work to secure a $2 billion electron ion collider for Brookhaven National Lab, and all of the many decades of jobs, not just for the construction, but the research, will be humanity-changing research, whether it's our work to secure the southern border, strengthening the U.S.-Israel relationship, moving the embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, getting the Abraham Accords pushed, Bush. Maybe the effort to go after the Iran nuclear deal, which was fatally flawed, and fortunately he stopped it. When it was the pandemic that hit, and I was picking up the phone, and I got PPE here, and we're getting the approvals for the semi-automated testing, the public lab testing, the private lab testing, bringing the USNS Comfort up to New York, bringing the Javits Center online. All of that work is our job.
Thank you, Mr. Zeldin.
I'll take that as a resounding yes, and the voters of New York do not agree with you.
So what's important looking forward is making sure that whether it's 2022, 24, 2032, we should always care whether your candidate comes in first or second about election integrity.
If you lose this election, do you promise to abide by the results?
Well, first off, losing is not an option. Secondly, playing along with your hypothetical question, of course.
Many of the races that we're covering tonight will be to represent newly drawn districts, some very similar to how they look now and others drastically different. Let's send things over to Victoria Halakar, who's going to give us a look at the new congressional maps in upstate New York.
A lot has changed in New York State thanks to recent redistricting. So we want to take you through the districts here in upstate New York, western New York, and walk you through what each one of them looks like currently. Let's start in New York 17. As you can see, actually all of Rockland and Putnam counties are included in this area. You have a lot of money being spent in this race against Sean Patrick Maloney and Mike Lawler, but currently it is a toss-up. That leads us to the 18th congressional district, which includes parts of the 18th and former 19th districts. You have Pat Ryan and Colin Schmidt running against each other. That is also currently a toss-up. Heading to the New York 19th congressional district. This includes parts of the Hudson Valley as well as parts of the southern tier. This is a pretty large area geographically as compared to it was.
In 15 seconds, it will be 11 o'clock. The polls have been closed for just over 2 hours. We've got lots of results pouring in. Kathy Hochul currently holds a sizable lead over Lee Zeldin with more than a third of the expected votes now tallied. But we're still waiting for results from key counties.
We see Kathy Hochul's lead kind of continuously shrinking. Just I don't know, maybe half an hour ago, we saw she was at about 66%. Lee Zeldin was at 33%. That gap continues to narrow. Now, that's not to say that Lee Zeldin is going to overtake her at some point. We still have a long ways to go. We still haven't seen a lot of the vote from Long Island. But we expected this to happen given the fact that so much of the early vote came from New York City.
Thank you, New York. I love you. Thank you.
Governor Kathy Hochul giving a victory speech, making note, Susan, of her place in history. It's the first woman ever elected governor of New York State.
That's right. Massive symbolic victory. Again, we just want to reiterate that while the Democratic Party and other outlets have declared Kathy Hochul and Antonio Delgado as victors in the governor's race, Spectrum News has not yet called the race because there are still some outstanding votes on Long Island, and that is the, that's where Lee Zeldin is from. We want to just make sure that we get it right.
Happy New Year. Welcome to Spectrum News special coverage of the historic inauguration of Kathy Hochul, the 57th governor of New York. I'm New York One political anchor Errol Lewis.
And I'm Spectrum News One political anchor Susan Arbetter. We are coming to you live from the Empire State Plaza Convention Center in Albany. The festivities, well, I'm supposed to say they're going to be getting underway in about a half hour, but they seem to be already getting underway.
There's a lot of activity going on here because along with Kathy Hochul, the Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado, the State Attorney General Letitia James, and the State Controller Tom DiNapoli will all also be sworn in for their next terms. Hochul, of course, will be New York's first woman governor, and she'll be serving her first full 4-year term.
That's right, a historic afternoon. Over the next half hour, we're going to discuss what we can from Hochul's first inaugural speech. We're going to have lots of special guests and much more. And as we wait for the ceremony to begin, we're also joined by our colleagues, reporters Nick Reisman and Zach Fink, who are also here somewhere at the convention center. Kate Lisa is at the Capitol, and our Bobby Kuza is joining us from the New York One studio in New York City.
At the time that I came into office, the state faced the deepest fiscal crisis that it ever did. But I united the state. Everyone hated me. because the only way that we could fix this was to, the Democrats said tax the rich, so we did that. Republicans said cut the programs, we did that too. But we cut it so much so that it angered them at the time. But we were out of the fiscal crisis. It was finished off by Governor Andrew Cuomo 6 months after I left office, and I was proud of it. And we, I think, got back into the revenue-generating state that we've always been.
So what is going on in Kathy Hochul's mind right now? I mean, you have been in this position where you are standing by, you're about to make your inaugural address. This was a week after the Spitzer meltdown. You're in the Assembly chamber. How does it feel?
Well, I had myself sworn in on the Monday following the resignation, so I wouldn't be sworn in with just a couple of family members and staff around. And all the legislators were kind enough to come and get into the Assembly chamber. And I think what I wanted to do was to set a tone in a short period of time of leadership. We were able to pass the budget remarkably sooner than you'd think if the governor took over on March 17th. And we also were able to demonstrate that there was no crisis of leadership because we did everything the Constitution said. I became the governor, and we moved on from there.
And Governor, you served for quite a long time in the state Senate before you became lieutenant governor and then governor. When it comes to the interaction between the governor and the members of the legislature, as we just heard a minute ago, there's some brewing controversy even before she is sworn in. Does the governor in a situation like that have the option or even the temptation to say to people, listen, we've got a budget coming up in a few weeks, and you should keep that in mind before you oppose me on judges or policy or anything else?
Well, one of my predecessors, Governor Mario Cuomo, he'd call you up at 6:30 in the morning.
I, Kathy Hochul,
do solemnly swear
swear
that I will support
the
Constitution of the United States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New York.
of the State of New York.
I will faithfully
Discharge
the duties
the duties
of the office
of the office
of Governor
of Governor
of the State
of the State
of New York,
according
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome.
President Biden has ties to the area, and as usual, we heard a lot about companies leaving, and that's something that it'll be interesting outside of the context of this speech to see if this resonates with the community, because it's one thing to be here in this room and hear the political buzz, everybody talking about the numbers, but there remains a lot of skepticism in the Syracuse community, the community around Central New York, because after years of disinvestment, they still, you hear about these numbers, you hear about these events with people coming to town, but when you speak to people here locally, what they want to see is shovels in the ground. And, obviously these things take time. This is expected to be
The Republican National Convention is underway in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and 2 days after an assassination attempt on his life, former President Donald Trump officially became the party's presidential nominee. He also named Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his vice presidential pick. Taylor Popolars joins us now from the Fiserv Forum where the convention is being held. Taylor, this was a very high-profile vice presidential search. What are some of the factors that ultimately helped Vance get the nod?
Well, Susan, I think there are several key points that you could turn to. One is that Senator Vance represents Ohio. He's from...
There were some familiar faces casting New York's delegates for Trump this afternoon. Who were they?
Yeah, I mean, look, leading the pack was Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. She was the one that announced the votes going for Trump. You also saw other members of the congressional delegation, including Anthony D'Esposito, Mike Lawler, who represents parts of the Hudson Valley. Both of those two are in competitive swing districts that the Republicans want to hold on to heading into November. You also saw the head of the Republican Party for the state also in that group, front and center as well. And now we also had a chance, our team on the ground, to catch up with former gubernatorial candidate.
Milwaukee is the New York State Republican Party Chair, Ed Cox. Ed, it is great to see you. How are you doing?
We're doing well here at the convention. Great convention, and once again, it's a pleasure and honor to be here.
So the big news today is, of course, that Donald Trump's vice presidential pick is going to be Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. So what do you think about him? Have you met him?
I have met him, but only briefly. A senator from Ohio. He couldn't get more right in the center of the country from that point of view. He grew up in the America First base. His book with the Hillbilly Elegy really talks about the base. So he knows it in his bones. That's part of him.
Similarly, I would like my opponent to please explain why in previous races he has accepted corporate dollars and does not feel that he owes the taxpayers of Central New York, why he doesn't feel he owes the taxpayers of Central New York the opportunity to explain why he took certain dollars, why he took certain votes, and why he is pushing back against it and not explaining.
So I have explained, and it's public record. So what I have done in running for office is, out there. It's in the public. It can be checked. What has been stated in some of the materials coming out of my opponent's campaign is that I accepted thousands of dollars from utility companies. Not true.
Used to pull the truth alarm, Jamal, because you constantly misrepresent the truth. You made a career out of misrepresenting the truth. His excuse for the fire alarm was not true when you saw the video. In this case, we have cut property taxes for all the communities in Westchester County across the board by lowering the overall county.
I need a rebuttal, please. Okay? We worked with Governor Hochul to bring $40 million into the district to reduce gun violence. George Latimer was nowhere to be found. When the girl in Mount Vernon was stabbed and killed, we worked with Mount Vernon to bring in $1 million to create a program, Safe Place for Our Girls, to support our at-risk girls. When a boy in New Rochelle was shot and killed, Latimer was nowhere to be found. We brought in millions of dollars for New Rochelle to help support at-risk people. Again, we brought over $1 billion, and we have so much more to talk about. Let's talk about what we've delivered.
Let's talk about how you rush to the scene to get press coverage when there's a tragedy. No, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
you
but
laugh.
See, you're nowhere to be found.
Now, do I have the rebuttal, or does he have
He's nowhere to be Mr. Latimer, found. go ahead. Get out of here, man.
You're nowhere to be found. You talk about the needs of part of the district, and you completely ignore. You don't mention Asian. You don't mention people who are not black or brown. There's a whole district, Jamal, that you've ignored, and the district knows you've ignored it. That's why you only have 31% in the last poll.
My question to you is, you were defending a 16-year-old, you were defending an adult who put a gun in the hands of a 16-year-old who ended up taking the life and orphaning 4 children, the life of a father. How do you expect law enforcement to have confidence in your ability to fight for the people being the citizens of Albany County?
1 minute to Lee Kinlan.
It's a winding question, but let me speak directly to law enforcement, and let me speak directly to the people of Albany County. People who know me well know that whatever job I have in front of me, I do it 110%. Whether it's being an attorney and representing an individual client, being a Marine officer, being a father, being a coach. When I offered to shovel your driveway after you got sick with your heart attack, remember that night I saw you in the basketball game?
You did.
I did.
You did.
Because David's right. We have been friends for a while. But I would have shoveled his driveway until the best I could. So ladies and gentlemen, look into my eyes now. If you elect me district attorney, cops, you guys know me. We're going to do good things. I'm going to protect people because whatever I do it at 100 miles an hour.
Thank you. So, Mr. Kinlan, it's now your turn to ask Mr. Soares a question.
Did you really want to use 100 miles an hour?
Whatever.
Defensive. Okay.
Do you? I think, yeah. We're going to continue. It's a metaphor. Go ahead.
David, there has been a lot of talk about financial improprieties in your office. And it feels like every couple of days there's another shoe that drops. And this is a very short question. Is there anything else that we should know about bonuses you've given out in your office to attorneys or even non-attorneys over the past couple of years? Are there any other financial things that we should know about that we're going to find out about? Or are you telling the voters of Albany County and everybody in your office that all the bonus money has been recorded and reported and we know everything?
Everything has been reported. Everything has been recorded, especially by the group of people that I think you're working hand in hand with to bring about these salacious allegations and these inferences. But everything has been presented, and you're more than free through your FOIL access, through some of your people who are your agents. They can do that. They can continue to look through everything that we have in the district attorney's office, because it's a government agency, and transparency is absolutely crucial.
From Albany to Syracuse to Binghamton to Rochester, Buffalo, the Hudson Valley. We are covering the entire state here tonight. And Susan, I want to start by asking you, this is a big deal because a lot of these primary races really will in some ways start to shape out what we're going to see in November. The big moment, Casey, that a lot of people have been waiting for.
We've got our big board
Let's see
here.
if it works.
We're going to keep an eye on some of the races that we are following tonight. Of course, we start off in the wrong screen, but hey, we got it up. Let's start with New York 22. That is the race that we've been following out in central New York, talking a lot about John Mannion and Sarah Clee Hood. And we've got some results that we can talk about right now. 60.2% of the vote for John Mannion, Sarah Clee Hood at 39.8%, still very.
Tonight we're going to hear from the 4 candidates on the ballot for the June primary, hoping to be the next mayor of the state's capital city. Current Mayor Kathy Sheehan is not seeking re-election after 3 terms. We're joined tonight by the 4 Democratic candidates whose names will appear on the ballot next month. Corey Ellis is the current president of the city's Common Council and has previously run for mayor. Dan Cerruti is a businessman and CEO of MayaCare, a caregiving technology company business. Dorsey Appliers is currently the chief city auditor and previously served on the Common Council. And Carolyn McLaughlin is a current county legislator and former president of the city's Common Council. Thank you all for being here tonight. Have you ever been a patron of one of the city's marijuana dispensaries, Carolyn McLaughlin?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Got cream from my mother, and it works.
Dan Cerruti.
No, I have not.
Dorsey Appliers.
No, I have not.
All right.
The first open mayor's race in a generation. So people sense it's an opportunity for a fresh start and a new approach in City Hall.
We think people are going to come out because people of Albany want change. And this is the day.
It's an extremely important process, and I hope that regardless of who someone votes for, they go out and vote today.
We feel great. I mean, we've knocked on thousands of doors. We've made thousands of phone calls.
I've been in the trenches, doing the work, rolling my sleeves up both in government and outside of government. And so I'm ready to move to the next level of doing that work.
The people of Albany are worth fighting for, and we will not be fooled by someone who is inexperienced.
People are really excited about the idea of a thriving Rochester by investing in our people.
There are issues that relate to the sum of us, SUM, not just some of us.
I would like to say that I want to lead Syracuse into a future.
Great, let's do something, change the city.
Night is here. Good evening and welcome to Decision 2025 New York primary night coverage right here on Spectrum News 1. I'm Casey Bortnick, joined by one of my favorites, Susan Ibetter, our political analyst.
Great to see you.
Night. It's exciting always to have you here. So great.
We're going to have a blast.
We are going to have a blast. The polls close in about an hour from now, 9 p.m. We bring you the latest results as they come in. We're following a number of local races tonight, of course. Our main focus, we're going to do the primaries in our major upstate cities. They happen to be Democratic primaries tonight. Not a lot of major Republican primaries. There are a few. We'll keep an eye on those and bring those to you throughout the night. Now, we have crews in Albany, Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse, where all 4 mayoral races have those Democratic primaries that we met, securing a second 4-year term. as the mayor of the Flower City. I want to welcome our viewers back in here. You're watching our live continuing coverage of primary night 2025 here in New York. Casey Bortnick along with our expert Susan Arbetter. It's been so fun watching these results come in all night long. And speaking of those results, let's go out to the city of Buffalo. The final race that hasn't really been declared with a victory speech is about to be declared with a victory speech. State Senator Sean Ryan out in the city of Buffalo holding off a challenge from the acting mayor, Chris Scanlon, tonight. Let's take you out there and listen in live right here on Spectrum News 1.
That is our show for you for tonight. But before we go, the entire Capitol Tonight team wants to wish a big Capitol Tonight congratulations to our brilliant executive producer, Seamus Lyman. He is leaving Spectrum News for a new job opportunity. Seamus, it has been such a pleasure working with you through the years. All of us wish you all the best. On behalf of the whole crew here, I'm Susan Arbetter. Thank you for watching Capitol Tonight, where you always have a seat at the table.